The British government extensively profiled NHS doctors who fall for COVID transparency. I'm going to read into this exclusive from Open Democracy, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE here with an exclusive from Open Democracy with the headline, "The government extensively profiled NHS doctors who fought for COVID transparency." The exclusive revealed that the health department said it would take 18 months to go through all the data it had gathered on Dr. Qureshi. So what is this about? So this is about, allegedly, what the article is stating here is that the government intentionally tried to deny information about COVID going public. Basically, it's basically an exclusive on the cover up that they tried to do. So apparently from this that they didn't. But you have to think, yeah, does this really surprise you as well, given that the amount of data and the amount of things that we have seen so far about the British government? It's really important, transparency and seeing everything that has happened and being open and clear about what happened. The COVID inquiry is really important. It's not just about about learning from the mistakes. It's about understanding why it happened, understanding the people that were in the positions that they were in, and what responsibilities and what their roles were and what they were supposed to do. And so far, what we've learned of it is we've learned about the chaos that had the government, and and if this is to be true, this tells us that their intention was to stop us from seeing extensively how much damage that they were really doing behind closed doors, and were preparing to silence people in order to do so. That's what it looks like to me, and it seems to be happening quite a lot lately. This so-called trying to cover their tracks sort of thing, and I don't like it whatsoever. So, the government have gathered 18 months worth of information on the NHS doctors who fought for the release of COVID-19 plan. Documents that wanted to keep secret Open Democracy can reveal. Moosa Qureshi, an haemotologist at the NHS hospitals in London and Kent, has been working to force ministers to publish nearly a dozen pandemic preparedness exercises since early 2020. But his pursuit of transparency has resulted in him being extensively profiled by the Department of Health and Social Care, the DHSC, which has refused to say what information it has gathered on the medic. Campaigners have warned that Qureshi's case is part of a worrying wider trend of government departments compiling dossiers on their critics. Yeah, so this is the other thing as well. This isn't just applying to doctors, this is also applying for other professionals in states as well, such as certain teachers, certain charities, certain certain police officers. There's certain people, certain departments who won't speak out about the patheticness of how embarrassing this government is, simply because of fear of losing their jobs or losing funding from councils, councils, for example. They're afraid of the government basically pulling the rug under them, and because they've shown to do that. Those in the state who work for the state, there is a bit of a fear thing there. And while we are coming closer and closer to a general election, still to the fact we ain't there yet, and they are concerned about their well-being. So this is just adding, compounding that more information of the government desperate to try and paint themselves in a much different picture to what the majority of the public see them as, is that of a government of a fraud, of lying, misleading. We've seen that way too many times, and they keep trying to rehash themselves, but people just want something different. And this really, the more I think about this, the more it makes sense, considering what we have learned about the British government in particular. So in May 2020, Qureshi used the Freedom of Information laws to ask for full findings of the exercise Singus, a 2016 government simulation of a flu outbreak that was designed to assess how prepared the UK was for a viral pandemic. Qureshi hoped to uncover to what extent Boris Johnson's government had to use the findings to inform his decision-making in the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic, and crucially whether it had overlooked some of SciNIST's key recommendations. The government fought the release of some of this information for more than a year, when it was finally handed over the triage and social papers in June of 2021, when ordered to do so by the then Information Commissioner Elizabeth Debon, who said that they were of overwhelming public interest as they were related to literally life and death decisions. So right here, saying here that the government fought for the release of this information for more than a year. They were that desperate to deny people the knowledge that they were trying on such very important information that is needed in this. Thank God we have something like a freedom of information request. Imagine if we didn't have that. Just imagine for a second if we didn't have that. We'd be denied so much knowledge about the failings and faults of the British government if we didn't have a Freedom of Information Act. When Qureshi finally obtained the withheld papers, it became apparent that political leaders had not shared plans or guidance for healthcare rationing with NHS staff when hospitals became overwhelmed. By then, more than 100,000 people in the UK had already died of COVID. The opportunity for democratic scrutiny and shared learning had been squandered, Qureshi told openDemocracy. Frustrated by the government's stonewalling, Qureshi submitted a Subject Access Request (SAR) to the DHSC in May 2021 to find out whether staff had been discussing his FOIs. An individual can use an SAR to force an organisation to hand over any information it holds on them and declares how it obtains the data and how it's being used and to whom it has been shared. Organisations should respond with these requests within 1 month of them being made. Yet more than a year of delays, the DHSC told Qureshi that his SAR could not be completed because of the sheer volume of information the department had collected on him meant it would take one staff member more than a year and a half to sort through. It makes me wonder whether the government has a file on me. So Matt Fowler, the COVID-19 bereaved Families for Justice, writing to Qureshi, the DHSC official said, "In your particular case, we have estimated the identification, collation and review of all records held that this may include personal data related to you who would take approximately 79 weeks of staff time, which is based on a single full-time member of staff working 37.5 hours per week in order to fulfill your subject access request." Just doesn't feel right, does it? Matt Fowler, who co-founded the COVID-19 bereaved Families for UK Justice UK, apologies for yawning there, described the government's efforts to avoid handing over information to Qureshi as a drain on resources that could have been better spent elsewhere. He said the government had also blocked and delayed his group's efforts for pandemic accountability, adding, "It makes me wonder whether they've got a file on me somewhere and what information they hold on me." Fowler says our experiences and the evidence we've seen points towards similar government obfuscation and efforts to block justice. It's almost Orwellian in some ways. This has been a daily fight for more than 3 years, fast approaching 4 now. It has been a consistent battle with the government over the release of information and securing the start date for the COVID inquiry. Screened by Clearing House. In 2021, a separate FOI request by openDemocracy journalist Jenna Cordroy found that Qureshi's initial request to the DHSC had been referred to Clearing House, a shadowy unit in the Cabinet Office that screened information requests and political discourses. Qureshi said he was shocked to learn that his request was being screened by the unit, which was disbanded in December 2022 after extensive investigation by openDemocracy and has since been redesigned according to the government. Jake Hoffoot, a head of research and investigation at Big Brother Watch, said the government's gathering of vast quantities of data on opponents and activists is worrying. Yeah, because they don't want the truth being exposed. They don't want the skeletons in their closets to come out, and they're going to try and hide it as many ways as they possibly can. From the Cabinet Office FOI Clearing House to Whitehall's Counter Disinformation Unit, government seems to have a habit of collating dossiers on its critics, raising serious questions about the privacy and the use of political surveillance. Instead of putting together bungling files on people who criticise them, officials should spend time addressing real problems. The Cabinet Office has denied collecting dossiers, saying, "At no stage in this process do we create dossiers on members of the public, and it would be completely wrong to claim otherwise." Caroline Ott is a solicitor at Lies Day who has represented Qureshi in his battles with the government over pandemic disclosure and personal data. My apologies. She told Open Democracy that the approach by a number of government bodies has been characterised by a lack of clarity and obfuscation. The government's gathering of vast quantities of data on opponents and activists is worrying indeed. The DHSC has since told Qureshi's legal team that it anticipated that it would not hold any relevant personal data of others or that already available to Dr. Qureshi. The department would not say how it came to this conclusion or whether through a search was involved. It added it had been ordered by the ICO to review its data handling processes to ensure that we can avoid any repeat of what's happened in this case. The DHSC declined to respond to Open Democracy's request for comment, while a Cabinet Office spokesperson said the government is committed to transparency. They continued that is why, despite receiving thousands of FRI requests every month, the vast majority are responded to on time. We also proactively publish more information outside the Freedom of Information Act than ever before. Because of its role at the centre of government, the Cabinet Office handles some of the most complex and sensitive issues, which mean that a large number of requests are received for information which is exempt under the Act. When requests are refused, reasons can include national security implications, protecting personal information, and requests where the relevant information has already been published. In some complex cases, extra time is needed for these considerations to be made. Yeah, but I think what he's asking for is very reasonable, considering the information that he holds. How he does it make them, they do really, does make you wonder how much people they're kind of targeting, how much they're looking at, really, when you think about it. I mean, he's simply doing what he feels is right, and it seems like the government, are trying to keep people quiet, certain people quiet here, and especially if somebody is not someone who has a lot of power or a lot of influence, it just seems like an attempt to try and silence them, and then that's how it comes across to me. And I've spoken obviously about how teachers are quite quiet when it comes to criticism of the government because they're afraid of the repercussions of it. Certain councils as well who get money from the government, they're worried if they splash out or speak out too much about the government, they'll take money away from them, money that they desperately need. So there is a feel of authoritarianism of sorts with the government when it comes to to a lot of state things, because they hold all the cards. It's funny, we were told when we left the EU that we would hold all the cards as well, but it seems like the government is holding all the cards and the public at the moment are not holding any. What do you guys make of it? What do you guys make of this whole thing? Do you think they have more tabs on more people than we know? Is there more information that we are not seeing again? How many skeletons are really in the closet of this British government? Let me know what you guys think of the article and my thoughts in the comments section down below. Hit the like button, would be greatly appreciated. Share this across social media and hit that bell notification icon so you'll be notified of when I upload another video. And if you want to financially support me, which would be greatly appreciated, you can do by buying me a coffee or joining me on Patreon. Both the links are in the description. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very soon.